Welcome to Lancaster Community Television Station. I'm here at Lincoln Middle School interviewing Dominique Millers, JP McCaskey alumni, and a guy who served in the military, proud father and husband. How you doing, Dom?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Ethan, for having me on here. And I'm excited to be out of this conversation.
I'm excited about this conversation as well. Your education in School District Lancaster has helped you further your career, make an impact in the community. Will you tell me about your education when you were here at the School District Lancaster when you attended JP McCaskey High School?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm a School District of Lancaster alum. I went to Price Elementary, Wickersham, Lincoln Middle School, where I'm currently working now, and I graduated from JP McCaskey High School. I worked in media studies and communication, and I loved McCaskey while I went there. I was a senior captain on the football team. I played volleyball. I ran track. President of the Black Student Union. I try to stay involved because I needed that kind of stuff when I was in school. I
definitely agree, because being involved after school activities leads to success, building connections with people, and more importantly, being active in that free time. So that's the difference between being on the streets or being involved in something positive. And speaking of being positive, you were the captain of that football team with Deontay Cherry, Aaron Switten, and many others. You had Coach Monzon, and that football team was good. Actually, in fact, Deontay Cherry and Aaron Switten actually graduated from college.
To be honest with you, those are two of the best athletes I ever played with. I can honestly say that. I played with Deontay when I was here at Lincoln as well. He was a stud since I met him. I mean, he's always been a great athlete. Aaron as well. Me and Deontay started at McCaskey at the same time because he was a freshman and played varsity. I was a sophomore, played JV and varsity. So, I mean, from the get-go, he hit the ground running. He was a great athlete.
Yeah, Deontay Cherry is a man who, in fact, is the only JP McCaskey High School, based on my research, as a student athlete, 1,000-point scorer and 1,000-yard receiving yards earned. Wow. And that's rarely done because most basketball players don't play football, which is a contact sport. But he decided to go against the grain and be an athlete, and it paid off. And you end up going to college for a little bit at Temple University, but then you decided to change course and join the military and serve the United States government.
So to be totally honest with you, after high school, I mean, I was a pretty good student going through McCaskey, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do right after high school. I knew I wanted to go to college, but didn't know how to pay for that. I don't think I was really equipped with the knowledge of getting scholarships and applying for that stuff ahead of time. So I ended up joining the military, joined the Army as a 92 Mike mortuary affairs specialist, and that's actually what funded my education at Temple. It didn't work out for me too well. I had a lot of personal things going on at the time, a lot of things were just going on back home, and I couldn't really seem to differentiate between the two. So something kept pulling me back to Lancaster, pulling me back. Eventually, I started working for the grocery outlet Bargain Market. I was there I was at the distribution site, made it from a picker and packer all the way to a logistics specialist, and was learning all these different avenues. And it was a great moment for me and my family until one of my mentors was like, dude, you're better than this. You should come coach our kids, even if it's for free time. Come coach our kids. And that's kind of what's brought me into this lane of giving back into the community. So
yeah, you're now coaching in football and impacting the kids and teaching them the right way how to do things, the fundamentals of catching, passing, tackling, running, and of course kicking. Football is a team sport, and you can have a star on the team, but if everyone else not doing their role as a supporting cast and playing as a team, you're not going to have much success. And life is about working together, because there's many different careers and aspects that we all can learn from the lessons of any sport in general. And you're also a mentor to these kids. They look up to you when some of these kids don't have their biological fathers inside their household, don't even show up to their games, but somehow by them looking up to you, you fill in that void.
So I would say that growing up, coaches always did that for me. Like you talked about one, Coach Monzon. He was a great influence for me growing up. Somebody, rest in peace, to Booby Gantz. Booby Gantz was literally at Lincoln while I was here. He was our football coach. He was a building assistant as well. And he poured into so many different young people growing up here. And I'm just happy that I could, fill even a portion of that void for our young people. I think coaching saved my life. When I first came back home from school, I was on a path of no coming back. And I had people that reached in there like, hey, Dom, you can do this. You can do this. I started as a volunteer coaching for 2 years for freshmen until somebody offered me an opportunity to coach for Lincoln, a paid position. I'm blessed to be able to get paid to give back to my community, but that's not even what it's about. Just pouring into these young people every single day because they're an open book and they need it is important. If we're not willing to do it, then who's going to do it? That's just how I look at it. And to be honest with you, just the difference between coaching and mentoring a bit, coaching to me is a beautiful thing. Of course, I want to teach them the basics and fundamentals of football, and hopefully some of them will be successful at the next level. But, you know, studies show that most kids aren't playing college sports. All the dreams are going pro, but most kids aren't going to be able to get that opportunity. I don't even care if we win games. I'd rather you be a decent person after the whistle. I'd rather you pick that guy up after you knock him down and knock him down again, but pick him up between or after those whistles. I'd rather you be a decent human being and just pour into other people after the fact. And I hope that my coaches see that in me, and that's what they taught me to do. So, but now I'm at Lincoln, and we actually started a mentorship program here at Lincoln called the Brotherhood Mentorship Program, and we pour into these young people every 2 weeks, well, every single day, but really every 2 weeks we have a cohort meeting where we have 14 mentees that meet up with 14 different mentors, and we just talk to them about self-advocacy, responsibility, knowing our history as African-American males, and more. And we love what we do. So
I totally agree. We have to produce more positive seeds in these kids. So many times I see kids who were former student athletes end up in jail in lengthy sentences, and by the time they get out, they already missed out in their 20s, 30s, and sometimes their 40s. But at the same time, by this mentorship program, it not only advocates for kids to take away the excuse of, I don't have my dad in my life, I don't have my mom being involved all the time, or uncle being involved, or an aunt being involved. Instead, you get to learn all this stuff in school, which is part of the life skills you're supposed to get all year round. So let's take away the excuses and bring in solutions. And what those solutions is produce productive members of society. They get exposed to more information at a younger age, and they get to decide the path they want to go on moving forward, be a victim or be a victor. Let's talk about some of your hobbies.
Well, for one, since I was a young man, I've always liked to write poetry. I always felt like that was a thing, just writing stories in general, or writing things that I don't necessarily want to say straight to people. And organizing my thoughts on paper has always been a way for me to pour out my feelings and emotions. And that's what I still do to this day. I also like to create avenues for other young people to do that too, and embrace the creativity. I think that that's one thing that might be missing in our public school system, that we don't put an emphasis on creativity. And I mean, 2020 has showed us that, I mean, you can make money at the palm of your hand. So if these kids are embracing that, embracing being open-minded and coming up with new innovative ideas, that's going to be a blessing for us in the end.
I totally agree, because poetry has been a very similar path I went on. I went from writing all the time to, well, one day I spoke and started opening up for the legend Black Ice. And then many years later, it turns out me and my cousin, Evita Colon, has similar talent. And it was so interesting to see that me and her not only had similar interests, but they were also related, because we went to the high school at the same time, and we didn't know until after high school. And when her mom found out me and her had the same uncle, well, that's when information just pretty much expanded the horizon. And Via's really doing her thing with her brands.
Yeah, shout out Concrete Rose Book Bar. I'm excited for that. Yeah, shout out Vita Colon. I think she's an amazing poet. She inspires me regularly, and she has for a long time. And shout out to the Concrete Rose Book Bar. We're really excited to have that in our city, and being able to pour into so many minds that need that. We need an avenue for us to be able to, you know, broaden our horizons, and to be able to make reading cool and make being educated dope. Like, that's the most important part.
And speaking of reading, I understand you got some books.
Yeah, definitely. I'm right here. So, I mean, over 2020, there's a lot of different opportunities that have been coming my way, from being able to get a couple different speaking engagements to just meeting people from all over. And one person in particular is my friend Salma Bube. He is from Lagos, Nigeria. It's weird because last year in 2019, if somebody from Africa would have just wrote me on Facebook and asked me to be a part of their book, I probably would have been a little more leery of it. But being open-minded, being connected, and realizing how small the internet makes the world is really a beautiful thing. So I was asked to be a publisher or be a writer, a part of this book. It's called Stay Alive. It's really a civility book to talk about suicide prevention and make that a normal part of conversation, because so many people are losing their lives on a day-to-day basis, and United States has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. And a lot of people don't know that. So I think that's important to be able to discuss. I have a poem that was published in this book, so I'm really proud about that. And, you know, I hope that more opportunities like this come, because I want to just be authentic with my approach. I want to be able to pour into other people, and hopefully they'll listen to what I have to say.
I totally agree with you, because mental health is key towards anybody's well-being all year round, because you have to have a strong mind all year round. Of course, life happens, but it's a matter of having a go-to plan, the right support system to stay afloat and continue to thrive. And you're thriving with your podcast company and showing the kids here at Lincoln Middle School and beyond how to start a podcast, have the brand, and always have new content.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I was blessed with the opportunity to work with TCP Network, the Culture Professional. Shout out to our big three: Brandon Way, Billy Way, and Marquise Lupton. Brandon Way was actually one of my football coaches when I was a senior for McCaskey. He worked under Rob Monton as well. And to be able to have this opportunity is really special for me, because I started my media journey at McCaskey. I was in media studies and production, and I felt like I don't want to say the teachers pushed me, but the notion was always to get out of here and make your dreams come true. Like, your Lancaster dreams are not going to happen. Like, you need to take those media aspirations to other avenues. And I didn't know too much about how to get involved with LCTV or how to get involved with WGAL or Lancaster newspaper. But after going to Temple and seeing this big rush of radio, I always wanted to be TV, but radio seemed to be so much more cool. And that was kind of my dream. When I came back home, I threw those away. I ended up having a son, and I was just like, you know what? I got to be this dad now, this husband, this guy that just stays home, goes to work every day, and that's what it is. And one day, I heard about this company that is providing Black and brown people with a voice to you know, speak our truth and be unapologetic about it. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's something that we can't take lightly. And since then, I've seen like this almost Black renaissance of Black creativity, of Black art, Black culture. And I love that. And I think that it's a beautiful thing. We need it.
I totally agree. There's plenty of opportunities here in Lancaster County. There's plenty of television stations, radio stations. It's just that thanks to the internet, we have independency to podcast, create our YouTube videos, even show things on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. And therefore, we get to create our own brand. And we'll create your own brand. You get to be your own storyteller and narrator, and you get a seat at the table. And it doesn't always have to be corporate. It could be independent.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm telling you, man.
I definitely agree. It's a beautiful thing, because people get to tell their stories how they want to tell it and interpret it, instead of going to somebody else, to a middleman. And you get to pretty much be yourself all the time.
So many things get lost in translation, and I think having a space where the marginalized, disenfranchised voices are able to be amplified, like even a space like Avita Cologne, Speak to My Soul, like we need things like this, because if we don't have groups like this, it's not going to make sense. The narrative has to change. And with all the crazy things that are going on in today's world, we need to have outlets that are our voice. So I really appreciate it. I'm also a producer for TCP. Not only do I have a podcast that I'm a part of, but I'm a producer for Dr. Johnny Vega's show, The Antidote, and that comes on every Monday night at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. And I'm also a part of Hip Hop and Politics that comes on every Tuesday night at 8 p.m.
Yeah, but outside of politics, outside your work schedule, outside mentoring, and of course coaching, you're a proud father and a proud husband who takes that very serious, and you really settled down.
To be honest with you, that's my proudest accomplishment. To be able to do all these things and still have a wife at home that loves me, that supports me, that pushes me to keep on being better and growing. To be able to have my son around me and see me growing up. When I was really young, I didn't really have that. I didn't have my dad right next to me to be able to, like, I didn't get to see him growing up from 3 years old all the way up. But I do now, and I have so many young people that see me doing this as well. One day, if I'm not around, hopefully the young people I mentor will be that for my son as well, and they know that I raised them better than to be acting a fool out here. And that's just me being honest. Shout out to my wife and my son. We definitely have another baby on the way as well, and I'm super excited about that. Working on my basketball team, so y'all better be ready.
Yeah, being a proud father and a husband means to be selfless, because you have to put other people's needs first. And also, you're the head of the marriage, head of the household, but at the same time, a woman has their way of getting their way as well. And it speaks in their body language, and it speaks in how they talk at a certain tone or withhold certain benefits inside the household. But I understand you were a man who pursued her in a respectful way.
My wife did not want me at all in the beginning. Like, I wanted her so bad, but at the same token, she had this misconception or this perception of me from when we were younger that she didn't want any parts. She was like, I know what you're about, blah, blah, blah. And to be quite honest, at first I was like that. At first I did just think, all right, she's going to feel me anyway. But I had to humble myself and really be transparent with her and really show her the type of man I am, the type of man I want to be, and she saw that potential. I think in regards to your question, though, I think that it's situational and it depends on the person. But at the same token, I mean, you know, when going too far, like, that line is thin right now, especially with the internet. But you know when you've gone too far. I think that the feeling always has to be mutual. If a woman seems that she's interested or a man seems that they're interested, then pursuing them doesn't seem like a bad idea. But sometimes the chase is the best part, you know? And sometimes when you get to the end of the chase and they do accept it, it might not be what you thought it was cracked out to be at the end of the day. So I wouldn't invest too much time into chasing others rather than working on myself to where I'm the catch, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. People always say, I'm looking to find the one. Well, it doesn't always work out like that in life. It's about building yourself. Therefore, you're the one. Therefore, you attract the right person and do the work for yourself, whether it's overcoming adversities, insecurities. Therefore, you become whole, and you meet another person that's whole. Now, everyone's whole in the relationship. Now we can be on this journey together. My name is Ethan, and I just enjoyed this interview with Don Miller, JP McCaskey alumni, military man, mentor, husband, and of course, a proud husband. Thank you very much, Don.
Thank you, Ethan. I hope that we can do this again one day. Maybe we could bring you on one of our shows on TCP. That'll be great. Thank you, LCTV. Lancaster, y'all be blessed. The Red Rose is the most beautiful city in the world. I've been a lot of different places, but I love my city and I'll always be here.